Very blessed morning to all the saints and friends of God that are here live. Very blessed morning to those of you online worshipers, whichever part of the world that you are worshiping with us from. We appreciate you. We are very happy to be your online church. We strongly assure you that the God I give you the grace to be part of what we are doing here, especially those of you who are outside Nigeria, that same God that is with us shall also be with you to protect and to bless as he blesses and protects us in Jesus' mighty name. We appreciate God in his favor and his love and his kindness. In our sermon today, I'm still speaking from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15. 1 Samuel, chapter 15. If you have been part of our worship series for the past 2 months, you notice that we have been talking from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15. So I'm not going to read from verse 1. Our text covered from verses 1 to 26. I will paraphrase. The story of how God directed Prophet Samuel to go and instruct the first king of Israel, King Saul, to go over to Amalek and utterly or completely destroy everything, man, animal, woman, suckling, all, everything. And you see that in the scripture, if you read that the king went with 250,000 people. When God has said utterly destroy, there's something I told you here, that when God speaks, once you speak, you must hear twice. And I said you must hear the implication of what God says and also the application. And I told you that when you say application, destroy completely, God is talking about that do not leave anything without destroying them. And when he said destroy completely, what he's saying is here, take nothing home. Contrariwise, King Saul with the people decide to take some things that they love back home. The Bible told us from verse 22 of the book of 1 Samuel chapter 15 that God was unhappy with it. And in verse 21, but the people took of the spoil, King Saul speaking, sheep and oxen, chief of the things which should have been destroyed utterly, to sacrifice unto your God in Gilgal. The prophet replied, and Samuel said, have the Lord has great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the rule of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy word, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord. This is what we see in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 15. The topic today is the Trinity of the mobility of sin. The Trinity, Trinity, the Trinity of the mobility of sin. Trinity, Trinity of the mobility of sin. I've told you what mobility of sin is last week. And of course, the movement of sin from one location and from one place to the other. What is Trinity? Trinity is a group of three persons or things. It's a group of three individuals. Instead of being three, that is what is called Trinity. To be able to understand the Trinity of the mobility of sin, you must first be able to understand the law of the mobility of sin. I told you that last Sunday. The law of the mobility of sin. And the law of the mobility of sin states that sin will continue in its mobile state as long as it receives equitable nourishment, and will thus cease when the nourishment failed and or when it meets a barrier greater than its speed. Sin will continue to move as long as it receives the nourishment to do so. And will they all cease when the nourishment fails or when that sin meets a barrier that is greater than its speed? I told you the speed of sin. What is the speed of sin? Speed of sin is sin measured. I want you to understand that anything I say here is what you should do. If you don't do, it's a sin. And you are a sinner. So when I speak, you listen. Take it home and use it. I told you that the speed of sin is what? Faster than the speed of what? Of light. That is how you define speed of sin. Faster than the speed of light. And of course, you'll be told that the fastest thing on earth is light. But sin is faster than it. What do I mean? Sin can be committed in the fastest opportunity. In the blink of eye, sins have been committed. Depending on the type of sin. And so you need to understand this as a Christian. That sin moves in a faster way. Very faster than you can imagine. That is why it overtakes a man. It overtakes a man. So you must need to understand the speed of sin very fast. In a twinkle of an eye, sin has been committed and finished, completed. So if you don't know that sin is very fast, you will not know when sin is twaking, when sin is coming, when sin is developing, when sin has been initiated, and of course, when sin is about to be activated. In the mobility of sin, no sin can be transferred from one person or from one place to the other unless it is first conspired. And it will happen as sin. What do I mean? You cannot transfer sin from one person to the other. Before you transfer it, it must happen in the mode of sin before you can transfer it. It cannot be transferred unless it is committed. You must commit that sin to transfer it. You cannot transfer sin from one person to the other in disguise. It doesn't happen. If you transfer sin in disguise, God records it as sin. Though men might look at it as righteousness. In the eyes of God, it's sin. Hear of how people transfer weapons to fight war in countries. Sometimes they put it in bags of rice. They put it in bags of cement. They put it in whatever in disguise. In the eyes of men, it might be righteousness. But before God, what is it? Sin. So no sin is transferred in disguise. Therefore, the Trinity of the mobility of sin is defined as the three parties that must be present before sin can either be transferred from one person to the other, or from one place to the other, or that sin can be hindered from being transferred. The Trinity of the mobility of sin is the three parties, 1, 2, 3. Three parties that must be available, of which two of them heart must be as one, before sin can be transferred from one person to the other, or received or hindered from happening. In our text, 1 Samuel chapter 15, we see that two parties whose heart beat as one were present in Amalek before the sin of disobedience could happen. We see, when we read that place very well, in verse 21, the king said he obeyed the people. And that means the people transferred the sin to the king. I told you that before. We saw the third party that comes, which is Samuel, with a different heart. And of course, he came to stop the sin. Prophet Samuel came to make Saul to see sin, not victory. Saul got home. He was rejoicing. He was very happy. He had seen, victory, but did not see the sin involved in the victory. He came to make Saul to know that victory in disobedience is injury in rejection. There are several human beings on the surface of the earth that has achieved what they have achieved in life. But in doing that, they have committed one sin or the other. They have forgotten about it. The purpose of discussing the Trinity of the mobility of sin is to remind you that in the position that you find yourself today, how many sins were committed before you get there? Saul saw himself as a king, but God saw him as a disobedience. There are people that when they enter a place, in that very sin, the hidden sinners in that place will stand, to smell the guiltiness of their conscience. The topic is the Trinity of the mobility of sin. In line with the law of the mobility of sin, anywhere that sin is committed and or detested, as recorded in our text, there are three personalities involved. The first one is the parasite. The second is the catalyst. And the third one is the barrier. The parasites, the catalyst, and the barrier of the mobility of such sin. The parasite is the sin carrier or host. He is the sinner. He's the one that carries the sin from one place to the other. He's the one that bore the sin. He's the one whose heart the sin is filled. He conspired the sin like the soldiers did. The catalyst is the one that quickens or supports this and speed up that sin, like in the case of Saul. While the barrier to sin is the person that tries to stop that sin from happening, as in the case of Prophet Samuel. The people of Israel were the parasite to the sin of disobedience. And of course, we saw also that the King Saul, he himself was the catalyst. And in this catalyst nature that he was, we saw that he received from the people. He supported them. He assisted them. He made them to go ahead doing it. He encouraged them doing it. That made him a catalyst. And the last person was a barrier to that sin. I tell you what, if Samuel was in Amalek, that sin would have been carried out. Phase 2 are sinners. These are people that, they live their life in dispersing sin. They dispose sin from all the places, from one place to the other, from one person to the other. The third party is the righteous person. Where the phase 2 are stronger and present, you know what happened? Sin will thrive and will continue to happen faster. But where a barrier is stronger, what happened here is that sin will be crippled, sin will be hindered. Why do I mention these three? To tell you who you are. Which one are you? Are you a parasite? Do you carry sin anywhere you go? Are you a catalyst? Do you support sin to happen? Are you a barrier to sin? Do you stop sin from happening? How many sins do you carry about? How many people do you commit, you support to go ahead with sin? How many sins have you stopped from happening? How many people have you encouraged? How many people, as it is, have you talked them out of sin as a Christian? In 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 12, the Bible called them natural brute beasts, catalyst and the parasite, who speak evil of the things that they don't know. The Bible said they shall receive a reward of unrighteousness. They have eyes full of adultery and fornication, and they cannot cease from sin. They deceive their unstable souls because parasite has taken over them. We must need to understand that the parasitic sinner, brethren, as we see, is someone that is burdened with sin. He carries sin about anywhere and wherever he goes. There is nowhere you see him that you don't have sin in his pocket or in his mind. And we know a parasite is a symbiotic relationship between species. One organism lives on the other. And I want you to understand, if you play host to sin, if you have sin in you, you have been demeaned. You have been disfigured. I know you must have seen an orange tree. And on top of that orange tree, you see another leaf that is not orange leaf. That tree has, defaced the beauty of that very orange. It has defaced the strength of that orange. That orange cannot bear much fruit. Why? Because it has a parasite on top of it. So it is also with people who are sinners. When you are a parasite sinner, you must need to understand that you have been defaced. I told you that when you are a parasite, you have sin in you. What happened here is that you have been structurally defaced and your life has been brought to naught. I told you that here your name will be changed by the sin that you bore. And whatever kind of sin that you bore, that is the name that you answer. If the sin you bore is murder, you be called murderer. If the sin that you bore is called adultery, you be called adulterer, and so on. If it's fornication, you are a fornicator. And this is exactly what it is. So we must need to understand that as it is here on earth, sin lives in human beings. And when I say Trinity of the mobility of sin, these three things must be available for sin to move. In Romans 6 verse 16, know you not that to whom you yield yourself servant to obey, the servant you are. When you have sin in you, you play host to the parasite of sin. You are now a servant of sin to obey. The Bible doesn't understand that God be thanked that when you were a servant of sin before, but now having obeyed the scripture, you are not expected to be servant of sin anymore. Another word for dominion here is control. When sin have control over you, you become a parasitic sinner. You are being controlled by, sin that is inside you. And of course, you have become host to the parasite of sin. In this time, you have no choice of your own. You cannot control yourself. The time that sin asks you to go naked, I don't know, I've heard somebody say, I dress the way my mind carries me. If my body just feel like, say, make I go naked, I'll just carry one small bomb shot and carry and dress and go outside. If my body just feel, So those kind of people are being controlled by the sin in them. If they don't smoke, they cannot sleep. If they don't commit that sin, they cannot rest. Why? Because they are carrying sin. They are bearing sin in them. They have the arabon, the sin that is inside them, moving them about. This sin, as it is, control their appetite, what they will eat and what they will drink, control their action and their emotions. Brethren, nobody was born a sinner. But whosoever sin takes captive, the same is being controlled and dominated by sin. And the sin, he gave a new name. In 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7, Bible says, purge out therefore this old leaven, that ye may be new, a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ, our Passover, is sanctified for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice, but with unleavened bread of sincerity. The topic is the Trinity, the three parties that made up the mobility of sin. In the movement of sin, beloved, from one area to the other, the sinner is controlled by the parasite that is inside him. It is in his heart or in her heart. It directs him or her on what to do. The person cannot control himself or herself again. That is what it makes him to move about from one place to the other. There are people that the quantity of sin inside their heart is more than the number of hair strands on their hair. In Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23, the Bible said, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are what? The issues of life. In Mark chapter 7 verse 20, from to 23, and he said, that which cometh out of the man, that devoureth the man. For from within, out of the heart of man, proceed evil thought, adultery, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness, and so on. All these come from within and defiles a man. Brethren, we must know that when these three parties are available and you are the first two, you are in serious sin. Effect of the mobility of sin. I told you that you cannot transfer sin in disguise. Sin must be transferred as sin. Beloved, when the parasite sin or the catalyst sin meets, sin become more, in fact, infectious. What is the effect of the mobility of sin? When either the parasite, you that carry sin about, or the catalyst, the person that supports you in that sin, meets, you know what happened? Sin become more infectious than COVID-19 virus. It becomes more infectious than the virus COVID-19. It becomes more contagious than the world's most deadly bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And more polluting than the sulfur, the outside, contaminant in the air. When these two sins come together, are you a parasite to sin? Or you are a catalyst? If parasite to sin marries a catalyst to sin, that house will be on fire every time. Because one is waiting for the other to start something. And that's why he started it, she started it. And in fact, that's what you wanted. Because two of them are part of the Trinity of the mobility of sin. Because the danger and the wages of sin does not come immediately. It doesn't happen immediately. That is why people do not know the danger involved in moving sin from one place to the other. I heard in one video in a WhatsApp how one Igbo man was lamenting in Igbo language. He was, my understanding, I don't understand Igbo language of Nigeria. He was saying that Igbo people are finished. That is my understanding. Because he lamented and lamented of people are trucking in, weapons into their town or their state or whatever. That's what I think he was saying. Because I saw the pictures of weapons and people were being brought out. People who were disguised and were being carried like as if they are carrying goats to be sold or fruits. And so when the man saw it and he was lamenting. So if people know the effect, how wicked sin is, I want you to know that people will cry. Suppose God says every week, everyone that commits sin must die on Sunday by 9 a.m. How many days do you think we'll have in Port Harcourt? And those that said that the streets of Africa will be littered with dead bodies, how many days will we have in their country? Excuse me, sir. How many days, if God was to say, dead for sin, how many days will we have in the streets of their country? The topic is the Trinity of the mobility of sin. Sin is very dangerous. How does sin move? Sin, if it's an animal, it doesn't have legs. Sin does not crawl on his belly like a snake from one place to the other. If sin is a fish, it doesn't have fins to swim from one water to the other. If it is a bird, it doesn't have feather nor wings to fly from one place to the other. How then does sin move and feel everywhere? How is it transferred from one person to the other? How is sin imparted to others? How does sin spread from one place to the other? How does sin increase from one level to this alarming state that we see in the world today? The answer is James chapter 4 verse 1. The Bible says, from whence cometh the fightings among you? They come from the loss, even the loss and the war among your members. Man is the legs and fins and feathers and wings where sin is moved and transferred. And transferred and moved as a parasite or catalyst from one place to the other. Man is the rod from where sin thrives when it plays host to sin. As a parasite. Sin is a parasite which lives in human hearts. The human carries it about everywhere. Whosoever it conquered, the same, it gives a new name because it has become a slave. In Romans chapter 6 verse 16, know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servant to obey, his servant ye are to obey. Whether to sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness. But God be thanked that you have obeyed sound doctrine and you have been made free from sin and now become servants of righteousness. But when you were the servant of sin, you were free from righteousness. What fruit had ye then in those things wherein ye are ashamed of? For the end of these things is death. Brethren, you cannot allow the parasite of any form of sin to live in you and still be a Christian. Which sin do you carry about? What is the name of that sin that is inside you? How many of them are there? You can't be that. We saw Samuel. Samuel was a barrier to sin. And that's what God expects you to be. A Christian must be a barrier to every form of sin that happens around him. When you cannot be a barrier to sin, then you are, in fact, you are, I don't know, despicable. And of course, you are an apology to Christianity. You must be a barrier to sin. When King Saul allowed himself to be a host to sin of disobedience, you know what happened? God rejected him. What sin do you play host to? What sin do you carry about? If this is what you do, I've called upon you. The purpose of this is to enable you to understand that if you are a Christian, in the transfer of sin, 3 personalities are there. The Trinity. The first 2 are sinners. Only one is a Christian. That person stops sin. How much sin do you stop from happening? In your families, in your homes, in your compound, among your people, those you know. How many people have you helped to stop sin? How many people have you assisted that sin should not continue? How many have you? In fact, in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1, the Bible said, what? A soft answer is what? Turn it away wrath. That means a soft answer is a barrier to sin. It's a barrier to wrath. A soft answer. The topic is the Trinity of the mobility of sin. How much have you turned people from committing sin? How many times have you helped people? When Jesus said, if your enemy slap you on the right cheek, turn the left for the person. Why did he say that? Why did he say that? He wanted you to barrier that sin. He wanted to stop that sin. He wanted to be a hindrance to that sin. That is why it is. And what does that mean? It means many times you have to accept some pains. You have to accept some uneasiness. You have to accept some tears and suffering in order to be a barrier to sin. You have to accept to be cheated. You have to accept to lose your rights. Lose the thing that would have been gained to you in order to be a barrier to sin. In order to block that sin so that it will not continue to, in the place. How many times have you blocked sin? How many times have you ended sin? How many times have you stopped sin? How many times have you blocked sin down? In Romans 6 verse 14 to 18. For sin shall not have dominion over you. For ye are not under the law, but under grace. We must know this, brethren. That sin must not have dominion over you. When quarrel starts where you are, do you stop it? When fighting starts where you are, do you stop it? When hatred starts where you are, do you stop it? When murmuring and backbiting start where you are, do you stop it? Fidelia, you see, Jonah is like a, what do you want to say? I want to hear you waiting. Hold it. Sorry, I don't want to hear it. What? I don't want to hear it. That is gossiping. I am a sin. In fact, I'm a barrier to sin. I don't carry sin about like you. Hello, somebody? Hello? That is a barrier. I don't want to hear that gossip. Now I am a barrier to sin. I hinder sin. I am no longer a parasite, no catalyst to sin. That is how a Christian behaves. So I have said this so that you go home. Go to wherever you are. And be able to use these words to know when sin is about to come out and do what? And barrier it. And stop it. And block it. And close it. That is why these words has come. That you might know. And that's what we call the Trinity of the mobility of sin. I have not said all I should say. I'll talk to you more on this. But I come to remind you today that it's better not to be a parasite. And he started it, and that's what he wanted. I gave it to him. No, that's not a Christian. A Christian will barrier that sin. A Christian will block that sin. A Christian will stop that sin from happening. That is what makes you a different person. I pray most earnestly. I don't know how many of you, those who are worshiping with us online, that has made up their mind to change from being a parasite carrier of sin, to change from being a catalyst supporter of sin, and to be a barrier